Hey, and welcome back to Game Talk. It has been a long time since we recorded last, but here we are again. We're gonna try this again and try and be consistent, unlike before. And I think now is as good a time as any to come back because there's just so much to talk about. But let me introduce my co-hosts. We have Connor Haynes
Hi guys.
and Michael Dumeyer.
Surprisingly, we're not dead.
2020 is looking to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest years in video game history.
I mean,
would
March
say.
alone.
Yeah, I mean, just month after month, we have large, huge releases coming out, like game of the decade level releases. You know, we've got Cyberpunk 2077 coming this year. We've got The Last of Us Part 2 coming this year. We've got the Final Fantasy VII remake coming this year. And just
Cyberpunk is not going to be game of the decade.
Are you
Uh,
kidding me? I mean,
no,
The Witcher
that game
was-
has-
Cyberpunk's not
Oh.
even going to be game of the year against Doom and Animal Crossing.
okay, you can
I don't know. It's CD Projekt Red. I just started
Yeah.
playing The Witcher, so
yeah,
And I think it'll be as good as Witcher 3, but I don't think it's going to be like universal game of the year tier. I really don't.
I mean, in any other year, I would say it would be, but this year's especially tough. Like this is looking like 2017 Part 2.
yeah, I mean,
as you
literally,
remember, in
I think we're going to get
2017
there's an okay chance we get another Breath of the Wild by the end of the year.
Yeah, that too. And in 2017, what I'm referring to is the year we had, Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey, Horizon Zero Dawn, Nier Automata, like a bunch of other things that I'm just
I forgot about Nier Automata.
Yeah.
Goodness. Yeah, big
And,
year.
And yeah, I mean, even aside from the games, we've got a new console generation launching this year, which in its own right brings all sorts of excitement with it.
Yeah, I'm honestly like the Xbox Series X has me thinking about switching to console, honestly.
Yeah, so let's talk about the Xbox Series X for a minute. They revealed the console at the Game Awards, and they revealed some of the specs as well. And the specs kind of blew my socks off. I was not expecting that major of an upgrade going into next generation. The specs on that thing are quite competitive when you take into account the pricing of the box, which will probably be around $500. When you compare it to like high-end PCs, it's got 12 teraflops of RDNA GPU power, which is I never would have predicted power that high if you'd asked me what the specs would be for the consoles a year ago.
Yeah, there's just a handful of things that we're getting to the point in this next gen we're flipping over. It's almost like going back to the 90s where the things a PC can do and the things a console can do are kind of diverging again. Because back then you couldn't do a side scroller on PC, and now it's looking like you have these things like interlaced 4K and stuff. You just don't get that on PC, but a console can do it.
Right.
There's just it's an actual choice now, as opposed to do you want to pay for the premium product or not? It's an actual choice in what gaming experience you want again, which is kind of interesting to me.
Right. And another big part of these new consoles is the increased CPU power, which I would argue maybe has the biggest implications for game design, along with the custom SSD solution that Sony keeps touting. But
right. I'm actually I don't believe what Sony's saying anymore about their SSDs. Honestly,
but why would
I mean,
they
Sony's
lie? Mark Cerny has a very reputable. He has a good reputation.
He does, but Sony's been known to greatly exaggerate the performance of their they'll fudge the numbers to exaggerate.
They showed a demo
of
of Spider-Man PS4 running on a PS5 dev kit.
Oh yeah, it's running on an SSD and it's fast.
yeah.
But an SSD on PC would load it that fast too. Spider-Man's load times aren't that long to begin with.
But what I'm arguing is that consoles often set the standard for game design for that generation, right?
Oh yeah, I think it's going to be interesting, streaming from the I think the most interesting thing about this is going to be we're going to be able to move faster in an open world. I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Something, you've seen probably videos of people doing weird stuff in Breath of the Wild where the LOD can't keep up and stuff, the level of detail.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be an issue anymore once we're
Right.
loading off of an SSD.
That's extremely exciting. And plus, it has implications for, certain game design elements. Say you have like a vastly detailed open world and you want to like fly over it. Well, before, if you're flying at a high speed, texture streaming might be a problem. There might be pop-ins, something like that. Those problems will presumably be ironed out with SSD being the norm.
The problem is for stuff like that is that a Blu-ray reader still is not going to be able to keep up. So you're going to have to install your games.
Right.
pretty much.
No, absolutely. Yeah. That's.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're not gonna
that's
be able
been
to
the
run off
norm.
of a disc anymore.
That's been the norm this generation as well, though. So
Really?
I feel like that shouldn't. Yeah. For PS4 and Xbox One, you have to install your game even if you have the disc. So
I don't think I had to install Bloodborne.
you definitely did. I promise. Yeah. If
I
you
mean, I
look
put the
at
disc
if
in
you
and it
look in your
started immediately.
PS4's hard drive, you'll see Bloodborne. Like however many gigabytes, 30 gigabytes, 40 gigabytes in there. I promise.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so like it's interesting seeing the strategies this time around. I distinctly remember in 2013 when, this current gen started, which feels like yesterday, honestly. It's crazy that we're already at this point. But, Sony came out first and unveiled their PlayStation, and it was, solid. Like it was good, like it didn't blow anyone's socks off, I don't think, but like the reveal was great. But then Microsoft came out and completely tripped all over themselves, and Sony instantly seized that, and that became the narrative for the rest of this generation. I think what made PlayStation blow up was equally in part their, smart strategies this generation, their good, first party output, but also contributing to that was Microsoft's immense blunder at the start. But, we're looking at a very different Microsoft in 2020, one much more in sync with, the core gamer and their sensibilities. And with them introducing friendly, new, innovative, and almost revolutionary, I would say, services like Game Pass, I'm very interested to see how things shake out. Yeah.
Xbox is the value console right now. I mean, my PS4 has been the most expensive thing I own for a while now. Just, I fired up
your fancy
Bloodborne,
PC?
then huh?
What about your PC?
My PC's cost me nothing to run this year, but my PS4, I pick up Bloodborne, and I can't even see the frickin' messages without paying for PlayStation Plus. But like, Game Pass on PC is cheaper than PlayStation Plus, and I'm getting, new games every couple days through that I get to play.
Right. Yeah, I feel like that's the biggest barrier to consoles is that paying for online services.
Yeah, it's just getting stupid. Like, they don't want to give you anything anymore.
See, that's the thing, though. Like, I can't see that possibly going away. That was normalized last generation, right? With the rise of
PlayStation 3 didn't.
Right, but when Microsoft demonstrated that, hey, people will pay for Xbox Live, Sony was just like, well, why not? Like they've proven that people will pay for this, which is, they shouldn't have to, but the consumer, I feel like, is already completely used to that as being like a cost.
But that's honestly probably the biggest barrier between me and having a console is I'm not going to pay for online multiplayer. I don't like multiplayer that much to begin with. If I have to pay for it, it's not, it's just not going to happen.
Right, and we'll see how it shakes out, the strategy for getting, PC gamers onto console. But, more and more I'm seeing, there's less reason really for PC gamers to move to console, especially with Microsoft's or Xbox's Game Pass rather, they launched Game Pass for PC, and even Sony, there's
a lot of the big heavy hitters are coming up. I've heard a lot of rumors about Bloodborne and Horizon being ported over to PC.
Right. Well, the big rumor right now is Horizon Zero Dawn is coming to PC, which is honestly shocking to me. Like I would never in a million years have predicted Sony's first-party games showing up anywhere. But, I thought about it for a little bit, and I could see if it's just Horizon, this could be a really sort of brilliant marketing ploy because there's a decent chance Horizon Zero Dawn 2 will be a launch game for PlayStation 5. So if they put that out on PC and get it into a bunch of new hands and then launch Horizon 2 exclusively for PS5, a lot of people will want to play that and be more incentivized to purchase a PlayStation 5 jump from PC to PS5.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that working. I don't know. I don't feel like there's a huge audience though. I'm surprised they're bringing Horizon Zero Dawn to PC because I don't
Horizon,
know of a single
Horizon
person that
sold
wanted to play
Horizon
Horizon that didn't play it.
sold like millions and millions of copies though. Like it's definitely one of Sony's core first party IPs.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. Like it was big, but I just feel like everybody who wanted to play it has by now.
Well, I mean, the argument there is, PC gamers probably didn't, like a lot of people probably a lot of PC gamers probably are completely content being on PC, having their, high-end settings and all that. The only sort of regret they'd have, right, is the console exclusives. So,
Yeah, but are they gonna jump to buy this 6-year-old game that they're getting now? I don't know.
I guess that's the question. We'll see once they put it out.
'Cause,
But,
I mean, I'm not. Horizon was a game I might have been into while it was big and everybody was talking about it, but I look at it now and I just don't get it anymore. Like I have zero desire to play it now. But I remember buying into the
Yeah.
hype a little bit when it first came out.
I mean, when it first came out, like I think a week
It was competing with Breath of the
two
Wild.
before
so-
Breath of the Wild, which is not the ideal release date, right?
Well,
which-
no, if it had come out, if it had come after Breath of the Wild, I don't think anybody would have cared.
Right, yeah. Breath of the
I mean,
Wild,
right
and
after.
which is honestly, Horizon's an incredible game, but it's just that Breath of the Wild is literally one of the greatest video games ever made,
Yeah, I mean,
so
Breath of the Wild has made it difficult for me to return to any open world game since
yeah,
its release.
they raised the bar.
It's made it
extent-
difficult to go back to any
yeah.
Zelda game too.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Like, I mean, really? You think it's made it more difficult to go back to open world games than Zelda games?
Yeah, I mean, I still love Zelda games for what they are. They're still, I love the dungeon design. I think that's the biggest
yeah.
thing missing from Breath of the Wild, which, a lot of people speculate for the Breath of the Wild sequel potentially coming out this year. They'll sort of integrate the two. That would be the perfect marriage, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah. We already talked. We talked a bit about PS4 and Xbox. Let's talk about Nintendo for a little bit. There were rumors for a while there that they're releasing a Switch revision in 2020, but the president of Nintendo came out and said, "Hey, that's not happening," which
It
I
means
don't
nothing.
know if I'd believe him, but
Yeah.
I think Nintendo's in a particularly interesting spot, right? Because like even if not if, when Sony puts out PlayStation 5 and Microsoft puts out Xbox Series X, I don't think that's going to impact Nintendo all too much anymore.
Nah.
They've carved out their own niche.
No, I mean, I think there will be a Switch too.
Yeah, they'd be stupid not to continue this design philosophy for at least another generation, I would say.
But I'd say it's at least 3 years out. Like it's not coming soon.
I still get the feeling we'll see like a Switch Pro.
Yeah,
like a
I
mid-gen
wouldn't be
refresh.
surprised. I don't know, because the problem is they really seem to not want you to buy a second Switch. They really don't want that. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
But,
they
like-
put out the Switch Lite, but they made it an extreme pain to have like cross-account
the
compatibility.
cloud saves are garbage, and they've announced that literally Animal Crossing save data will not be transferable at all.
Yeah.
Like, not even as like a system transfer type deal. It's just not possible. They're not going to let you do it. And like, that's a deal breaker for me. I won't be buying another Switch. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to lose my Animal Crossing data.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's precious.
That's that's the game. That's the
You know-
only thing I play on my 3DS these days. Like,
That's another huge game coming out this year. Like,
oh,
gosh,
yeah,
2020
I'm
is
gonna
just
save so much
absolutely
time.
insane. And me, who isn't really, I've never really got into Animal Crossing. I will absolutely be buying this Animal Crossing game because one, I think it's a good time to jump in, and two, I feel like it's a lot like that game we were making, Connor.
Oh yeah.
A year or
it's very
so
much
ago.
like,
It's pretty much
yeah.
the game we were making realized, except by Nintendo. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had a couple of features they're not going to have, but all the heavy hitters are going to be there, you know.
Yeah, I was shocked when I saw the Nintendo Direct because it was so similar,
Oh yeah.
same sort of ideas. But yeah, we don't have to linger on that too long. But
No,
one
not a
interesting
game
thing,
dev podcast.
yeah, But one interesting thing I was just thinking of, the last episode we recorded, which was like January of 2019, I think regarding we were talking about Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and at that point, the first fighter in the Fighter Pass had been revealed, Joker from Persona. Now all of the fighters from the Fighter Pass are out. We've got Hero from Dragon Quest, Banjo from Banjo-Kazooie, Terry Bogard from SNK, and
that's
Byleth
all of them
from Fire Emblem.
Yeah, we don't mention Byleth.
Yeah,
we don't mention them.
We don't talk about that. But overall, what are your guys' thoughts?
I'm really happy with the season pass overall. But if they had switched, I'm not even a big Terry fan. But if they had switched, if Byleth hadn't been the last one, the taste it had left in my mouth would be so much better.
Yeah,
like I know at least one person that has quit playing Smash Bros. Since Byleth came out.
That's extreme. That is really extreme.
Well, like it's only been a few weeks. Like they've just not wanted to. Like it's just left such a bad taste in their mouth that they haven't felt like it recently.
So
like they're not done with the game. They just like that's all they can think about right now.
Yeah, but for those who aren't familiar, Byleth is the protagonist from the latest Fire Emblem game, Fire Emblem Three Houses. And the reason this caused such a stir was because there are already an obscene number of Fire Emblem characters in the game. And they all sort of look the same.
Because Nintendo has once again forced you to pay for an advertisement from them.
Yeah, but that being said, I've actually been playing with Byleth, and Byleth is extremely fun to play.
I have not played Smash Bros. Since Byleth came out.
Okay, but that's all I'm saying. I personally would also prefer someone else.
If it had been Monster Hunter, they could have made 0 changes and had a better character.
That is 100% true.
Yeah.
But when the Fighter Pass gives us things like Banjo and Joker, I really can't complain. Like those are huge, monumental things. Banjo is a Microsoft IP now. Joker is from Persona, which is a PlayStation IP. So like the floodgates are truly open. Like anything can get into Smash. And then Sakurai announced 6 more fighters up through 2021. So a lot of people are holding out hope for like Master Chief and Gino. So I'm excited to see.
Absolute aside, but Masahiro Sakurai taught me to count in binary in that last on my hands, and that was Nintendo
that was
Direct.
incredible.
I didn't know that trick, and that's super useful. That's something I should have learned in college.
Yeah, I'm like definitely. I was obviously familiar with binary before, but I never would have thought counting on my hands that way. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
What a weirdo.
What a guy, yeah. Even in a Direct that I'm so he managed to give me something useful.
And I love how it feels like he knows he's trolling everyone, but he just sort of revels in it. That's the vibe I get from him, at least.
Yeah, I mean, he straight up said, please don't be upset with me.
Yeah. Well, to be fair to him, I think he said at one point, right, Nintendo decided on the 5 fighters.
Right. Yeah. No.
He's just implementing
Byleth in the game.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's probably right there along with us. But that being said, Sakurai, I think he is a pretty big fan of Fire Emblem. So who knows?
Yeah, he is. But he knows. He was a huge fan of. Isn't.
He was a huge fan of King of Fighters too. That's the whole reason Terry got in.
So excited for Terry.
Sakurai definitely has a lot of gamer cred. He plays just about everything. Sort
apparently
of
he was actually like a professional of King of Fighter back in the day.
Wow.
So I can get where he came from putting that character in.
Yeah. And I don't know how familiar you guys are with the competitive Ultimate scene.
Not at all. Super. I hear about it. Like I know the local West Virginia competitive scene a little bit, but the bigger stuff, I watch Alpha Red on YouTube, and that's pretty much all I got.
Yeah. I mean, since Ultimate came out, the competitive scene has really sort of blossomed, and they've become like, the super majors for this tournament are like marquee, fighting game tournament events now. And a lot of, and I don't want to linger on this too long if you guys aren't into it, but the thing I really love about competitive Ultimate is that basically all of the top 10 players play different characters. And
it's such a well-balanced
game. So interesting seeing like all their different, play styles and strategies collide with each other. Like the current best player in the world, I would say, is MKLeo, and he plays Joker. And literally no one else, and even the top 20, I would say, plays Joker. It's just he just has such a thorough understanding of that character that he's elevated him to heights that no one else can reach, and I think that's really fascinating. It's almost
I think that of like obviously there are tier lists that are applicable to Ultimate, but I really don't think that the worst character in the game is that much worse than the best character in the game.
Yeah.
Like you're really, really having to get into the nitty gritty to make a tier list. I have heard arguments that Little Mac is unplayable, but
yeah.
other than that,
that's because of his horrible aerial game. But you know,
Right,
when
yeah.
you compare Ultimate in that regard to something like Melee, right? Like Melee, you have a handful of characters that are viable at the highest level, and that's
Yeah.
it. You know, Ultimate,
I
I feel
Fox
like
it's just broken. Yeah.
well, Fox is just a level above everyone, but you know, beneath that you have Falco and I think Marth and Jigglypuff.
Right. I think Sheik
But-
is up there.
Yeah, but you know, not to knock Melee. Melee is still my absolute favorite esport to watch. That hasn't changed. And thankfully the competitive scene for Melee seems to be doing just fine. But you know, Ultimate has really come into its own, and it's introduced a lot of variety to the Smash high level Smash play, which I
Yeah,
think
and
is-
honestly, it's been a while since since the early Brawl days that like Smash was just like a default game I could sit down and play with my friends. Like, you know, it got to the point when Smash 4 came out and towards the later days of Brawl, like you would sit down and like people would say, "Oh, let's play Smash," and people would be like, "Oh, well, you know, I'd rather play Melee or I'd rather play Project M. Nobody wants to play Brawl and nobody wanted to play Smash 4
Yeah.
like ever."
Smash
And,
Ultimate's a lot more accessible
yeah.
to a lot of people.
Yeah, and Ultimate just like, you know, when you hang out, you're like, yeah, let's play some Ultimate. Like that's the obvious choice now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
'Cause
either
it's just-
that or Mario Kart, right?
Yeah,
Like,
right. Like
and Mario
it's-
Kart's
yeah.
Nintendo's highest selling game, right? So it's crazy that Ultimate's now sort of in that same.
Yeah,
uh,
that same tier. And
yeah.
Ultimate's the best selling fighting game of all time.
Yeah, it's only going to keep selling more, you know, with you know
with
Nintendo
the new
milking it with all
characters
they've
and-
got. And
yeah.
plus, I think we really should appreciate the fact that you know all of these characters are in this game because I think Sakurai has even said like he won't be able to do this again.
No.
This is sort of a once in a lifetime type thing, so we should definitely you know enjoy Ultimate while we can.
So I actually have a question for you guys. Like assuming Ultimate, like let's picture it like it's this final Smash Bros game.
It won't be, but sure.
I know, but like just play with me.
Yeah.
Like would you guys buy like if they were gonna make a DLC that was like some item, I know you wouldn't, David, because you don't play with items, but like say like they were adding like the Contra spread gun as an item and a couple of stages or something, or maybe some assist trophies. Would you buy that DLC, Mike?
What?
Like if they were gonna add like some stages and items as DLC, no character.
Maybe, honestly.
Because I would. I think there's some cool items they could do and stuff that I would be happy to have, and definitely some cool stages, like new games coming out that, you know, maybe a new, you know, a Breath of the Wild 2 stage. I don't think there's going to be a character that's worth adding unless they want to add Breath of the Wild 2 Zelda or something. I don't think that would be worth doing. But
Well, in terms of
I like stage variety a lot.
well, we get one stage per new character, so I think we'll be getting you know a decent number of stages going
Yeah,
forward.
at least 6 more stages. Yeah.
But in terms of like who could be on one of those 6 characters, I definitely think we're getting a new Pokemon because I feel like
Yeah,
we're overdue for one.
unfortunately. Yeah.
I could see Zelda if the rumors of Zelda being playable in Breath of the Wild 2 were true. I could see Zelda being another one.
I can see that. I do think we'll eventually get Dante from Devil May Cry. I think
yeah,
that's like
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
And in that vein, I really want there to be more wild like third party picks. You know, like Dante, Master Chief, just all of it.
yeah,
You know.
those are the fun ones. Yeah.
But yeah, sort of shifting gears off Smash, if that's okay with you guys.
Oh yeah.
And just sort of talking more about like this year in games. So I'm just going to go through a quick list of big games coming out this year. So one has already sort of come out. It's a big game to me at least. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, which is sort of a Dragon Ball Z RPG that tells the entire story of Z from beginning to end. And it's out already. I haven't played it yet, but it looks super cool. Any thoughts on that?
I
Colin?
haven't played it yet, but from the videos I've seen, it really looks like, and don't get me wrong, I think it's the best version, but it's just the same game Bandai Namco has been releasing
Right,
for
yeah.
like 20 years. Like, it's not anything new. Like, I'm not gonna buy it. I've seen
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z. I don't need to see it or play it for 80 hours or whatever.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
think I'll get it when it's on a sale, but like the Dragon Ball fan in me like still wants it, you know.
Yeah, like I've seen the cutscenes and they look super exciting, but I don't know. It's not fighters. It's not like
Yeah.
it's nothing new. And that bugs me a little bit about it. Like they've literally released this game like 10 times.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
think this is probably the best version. I'll give them that, but I'm tired of it.
I can see that. We're recording this on February 5th, right? So we've got a couple big games coming out this month even. We've got Ori and the Will of the Wisps coming out in like 6 days.
I forgot about that.
Any
I
hype
need to
about
play
that?
the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I
a big one.
liked the original Ori and the Blind Forest, but I got it and Hollow Knight at the same time. And I played Hollow Knight. Like,
Oh, of course. Hollow Knight, best indie game ever made as far
so
as
I never finished Ori and the Blind Forest. So I need to go back and do that because I bet Will o' the Wisps is going to come to Game Pass. So I'm going to have it.
Yeah, it'll be there day one, I imagine. It's
So,
some
and I feel
Microsoft
like
game.
it's probably like, do you think I need to play the first one to understand the second one? I feel like
I
I
don't
probably
think
do.
I don't think so.
Well, we'll see. I'll probably play it though, one way or another. I'm a patient gamer though. Even if I already have the game, it usually takes me forever to get around to playing it.
Yeah. February 14th, we've got Dreams finally coming out.
Yeah, that's weird. That's finally.
It's been in early access for months now.
Yeah, I've played it, and I feel like I've had my fun with it. It's
Yeah.
in a weird. Have either of you played it?
No, I haven't touched it yet.
I hope it kind of gets out of this once it leaves early access, but it's definitely in this weird place where like it's this super powerful tool that's maybe not. It's super accessible, but even with like there's only so accessible you can make game development before you hit the point where the problem is that people don't have good ideas. Like I've played a lot of Dreams and like there are a few that are like so close to being something, but they're just not like fun.
The thing is, I feel like we've barely scratched the surface of the potential for Dreams.
I
Like,
agree, but
I
I'm just
feel
not
like-
sure that it's going to have the audience to actually reach that potential. And I really hope it does because it's so cool.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it yet. I've seen like a bunch of tech demos and like that's not fun.
Yeah, I mean, if we go by Medium Molecule's previous, offerings, Little Big Planet was quite popular. Like,
Yeah.
it had like millions of players.
But I didn't know Dreams. I have already bought Dreams and I did not know it was coming out next week.
Yeah,
So like that says something,
yeah.
Coming out on Valentine's Day. That's weird.
Yeah,
True.
I didn't even
Yeah.
know it was coming out this year.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like a PS5 launch title at this point. I had no idea.
Well, I can't. It's obviously going to be cross.
Oh, it's going to get
generational.
ported, yeah.
Yeah, because Dreams is like the beginning
Dreams
of
is
a
a platform,
multi-year, hopefully for them, successful platform. And this is the last year of PlayStation 4, so it'd be kind of silly if it didn't come to PlayStation 5.
I mean, yeah, shifting gears a little, like just barely. Like I've looked at Dreams and like thought about. I'm terrible at 3D modeling, and I've looked at Dreams. You can actually make a model in Dreams, export it, and put it in Unity. And like I've
Yeah.
thought about doing that as a game.
That's really cool.
Because I'm terrible at 3D modeling, but Dreams is so intuitive. Even I, with enough time, could make something in it.
Yeah, and I hear it's even more intuitive once you have Move controllers.
Oh yeah, for sure. But it does a lot using just the gyroscope of the PS4 controller. Like it is very powerful.
That's awesome. So yeah, Dreams, I definitely feel like it's one thing when it comes out. I think we'll be talking about Dreams for years to come.
Probably.
Whether it's in a positive or negative light, that's to be seen. But yeah, but we're like barely getting started in terms of what's coming out this year.
I just hope Dreams doesn't get slept on.
I don't think it will be. I think a lot of people know about it.
Damn it, I demand that you acknowledge that pun.
Oh wow, I totally missed it because my mind was already thinking about the next thing. Yeah, all right, I will acknowledge it. That was very
I hate
good.
it.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is a huge one, but potentially some would argue even the hugest this year. But I personally have had no experience with these games. Have any of you played Final Fantasy VII?
No.
No.
Okay, so this is, probably going to offend a lot of people, but I personally don't really care about Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
I
me
know the
neither.
Final Fantasy VII remake is coming out and is monumentally huge. Like people are going to die over this game.
Yeah.
And I almost wish I had played it when I was young, so I could have that nostalgia for it, so I could
you could
want
care.
it, so I could
Yeah.
so I could understand.
Yeah.
But at this point, I would probably just get it on a sale so I could finally play Final Fantasy VII, which is regarded as one of the most seminal games of that era.
Final Fantasy 15 is getting added to Game Pass this week. If I like that, I'm probably going to get Final Fantasy 7 because it looks like the Final Fantasy 7 remake is going to be more of that style.
Well, I wouldn't jump on that though, because impressions I've seen say that the Final Fantasy VII battle system, on surface level, it's the same, sort of, RPG, action RPG, hack and slash as 15, but 7 seems to be a lot more technical from the people who have played the demos. There's actually a strategic component to it, like switching, party members on your team at the right time to attack and stuff like that. So what I'm getting at is I wouldn't form your opinion on 7 based on 15. Maybe just read some impressions from YouTube,
Really?
or watch some impressions from YouTubers you trust or something like that.
Because the original 7 is not attractive to me at all. I hate turn-based combat. It takes a really, really amazing game
So
to get
so they've rehauled the combat system. It's not turn-based combat.
Yeah, I saw.
anymore.
Well, yeah, I think you can play it turn-based. Like, there's like an option for that, and that worries me because that makes me feel like it's unfocused. But obviously, I haven't seen it yet, so I'm not ready to.
But the impressions I've heard about the combat are really, really positive, though.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I don't know. I'll probably see somebody play it on YouTube. I don't know, but I'm not gonna buy it day one. It's not something I'm excited for.
yeah. So sorry for all
there's a lot
the.
of games coming out this year.
But on that note, not Final Fantasy, Phantasy Star Online 2 is finally coming to the West after I think it got released in 2012 in Japan.
So that's like an MMO, right? Like a big MMO.
Yeah. Have
Yeah.
either of you ever played Phantasy Star Online?
No.
Oh my God. I didn't play the original on Dreamcast, although I hear it was like a system seller for the Dreamcast. I played it. It got remade for the GameCube, much like every Dreamcast game. And I poured like hundreds of hours into that game as a kid. I didn't even have it online. It had a split screen on the GameCube, and me and two of my friends played through that game dozens of times.
Yeah, no, I heard a lot of buzz about this coming to the West as well.
Yeah,
It's just yet another to the list of 2020.
that one will be a day one buy. for me.
I don't know if anyone else is excited for this, but the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon remake.
Oh yeah. Oh my
I am
God.
excited, but it comes out 2 weeks before Animal Crossing and Doom, so it's gonna get eaten alive. By
Yeah,
those
so
games.
let's just talk about that. Animal Crossing and Doom are coming out on the same day.
Yeah, that's gonna be an expensive day for me because I will be
Oh.
buying both of those.
That's
And I
crazy.
might. Is that a Friday? What day is that? Because I'll
March
probably
20th?
take off work. Yeah, I know it's March 20th. I need to check
Oh, it's a
what day that-
Thursday.
I might take 2 days off work.
It's 4-day weekend.
No, it's
for
a
Animal
Friday.
Crossing.
It's a Friday.
No,
I
I
think
just looked at I looked for February.
I feel like both the publishers for both of those games are just hoping that there's like zero overlap between those audiences, but I can tell you that's
They're
definitely not
so
the case.
wrong. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I'm just blessed that I have $120 because like I don't know
Yeah.
what I'd do if I had to make that choice. I'd go Animal Crossing.
On the surface level, like you'd think so though, right? Like cuz one's like total violence, like tactical shooter violence, and the other is like cutesy farming animals.
Hold on.
You know, it's such a good
There's
pairing to me, though.
absolutely a huge overlap.
Like getting both of those games on the same day is such a good pairing to me because like Animal Crossing, there's only so much you can do in a day, and you just kind of end up hitting a wall. Like you can't play it for like 10 hours straight. I get there are some people that can, but I can't.
Mhm.
Like there's a certain amount of stuff you can do before the returns you're going to get that day diminish because it's like a Harvest Moon sort of game, except you can't skip to the next day. Like it's on a real time clock. And Doom, I feel like if I played that for 10 hours straight, my heart would explode.
Yeah.
So like
probably.
I think having that Animal Crossing warm up and then an Animal Crossing cooldown to sandwich the meat of that being Doom, I think that's going to be really good for me. I think that's going to be a
That's
hell
a
of a
really
day.
good point. They complement each other very well.
But financially, it sucks because that is
Yeah.
going to be me spending
You're gonna be
$120
buying 2 brand new games, yeah,
Yeah,
for full price.
yeah.
But, you know, that's one of those rare cases where both of those games are gonna be so good it'll be totally worth it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have probably decided my 2020 game of the year. Like,
by March.
yeah, like based on those two games, it's gonna be one of them.
We're also
I don't know,
apparently
man.
getting a
This
new
this
Half-Life
year
game.
this year
Unless Breath
yeah.
of the Wild 2 comes out this year, then there'll be some conflict.
Well, Mike,
Like,
Mike made a great point. There's a new Half-Life game coming out this
yeah,
year.
no, I'm
What
excited for
loaded
that
year
too.
already?
That's absolute madness, you know.
It's a good year for VR. Have you guys heard of Walking Dead: Saints and Sinners?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah, I have not picked it up yet, but it's like supposed to be one like in the same tier as Half-Life as far as like good narrative VR games.
Yeah, VR has been picking up lots of steam. There are plenty of titles on VR right now that I want to play.
I think it's super likely I'm going to get an Index this year. You know, if they're ever in stock again. I've
Yeah.
been thinking about it.
Well,
I wish-
while we're on the subject of VR, Iron Man VR comes out later this year, and
Really?
all
I
the
haven't seen
impressions
much
for
about
that
that.
have been extremely positive.
Oh yeah,
Like,
it has to
They
be.
apparently nailed the feeling of being Iron Man, which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean that's like a dream game, you know?
Yeah, that's what you wish VR would be when you heard about like VR at
Yeah.
first. You know, that's gonna be huge, especially
Yeah.
if they nail it, because it's not just some on rails gimmicky thing. It's got like a full story. It's got like fleshed out combat and
Hopefully big open levels where you can
explorable
fly
world.
around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
it's exciting.
this might be a hot take. I thought the Iron Man movie game was pretty good.
I would never play something like that.
It was extremely short, but that's the kind of movie game you want. Is like somebody cared enough and put enough care into the game that they ran out of time before they could finish it. Because it was only like 4 or 5 levels long, but those 5 levels were pretty alright. But I was 11 years old, and I did beat it
Yeah.
in 2 hours,
Yeah.
and it was $60.
Jeez,
I mean-
that's not worth it at all.
I don't think you should
Honestly.
trust your 11-year-old opinions, because
Oh no, I
when,
stand
when
by
I
it.
was
It had,
11,
like system management, like you had to like manage your armor and weapons and stuff. It was a fairly complex game.
I mean, when I was 11, I thought, Shadow the Hedgehog was the greatest video game ever made. So,
It's not the greatest video game ever made, but if Shadow the Hedgehog got re-released tomorrow, I'd buy it.
all right, we're not going to dedicate any time to this.
Yeah, let's just get that
moving
out.
on. Let's just talk about Ubisoft briefly. They've got a couple big games coming out this year. The new Watch Dogs Legion. I don't know if you guys have ever played Watch Dogs, but this
I
one's got
haven't, but Legion looks good.
this one's got a pretty interesting gimmick. Do you know what it is?
It's that you can play as anybody, right? Like
Yeah.
any NPC.
So essentially, essentially you're all part of like some hacker syndicate or whatever. And whenever your character dies, you just play as another person in the organization.
Yeah, like they
So-
bragged about like being able to play as like the grandma in the
Yeah.
trailer.
So whoever you recruit, you can play as, which is pretty crazy.
That's
Oh,
I
nuts.
think that'll be cool, but I gotta say, until Ubisoft announces another Rayman, I just don't care.
I feel like we're definitely due for one.
We're due for another Rayman Legends. That game is god tier.
Yeah. But we've also we should have a new Assassin's Creed this year. It hasn't been confirmed, but it is time.
I haven't played the last few.
their
Here's
bi-yearly.
really good.
I've been playing Odyssey. Actually, that's what I've been playing lately. I'm already over 40 hours in, and it is an absolutely massive game, and it is quite fun. I'm enjoying Odyssey quite a bit. But the rumor for this new one seems to be like a Viking setting, which could be kind of neat.
That could be cool.
Yeah. There's also, okay, so moving on. Have you guys heard of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines?
Oh
I've
my
heard
god,
of
that's
it.
coming out too.
I know very little about
Yeah.
it, but
I
have
know
heard of it.
I know the first game came out years and years ago, and
Oh, yeah, it was
and it
like
had a huge following.
Early aughts, yeah. I think based on my research and like knowledge, it was really buggy at release, and then a user came through and patched it through to actually make it a worthwhile game to play.
Yeah, and that's one I know a lot of people are looking forward to. In April, we have Resident Evil 3 remake coming out.
Before we talk about that, can we talk about 2019 as the year where we finally figured out how to make a good remake?
Yeah, Resident Evil 2 was immaculate.
Like,
It was
instead of
so
just,
good.
like, these really like slapdash remasters, we finally figured out what a good remake is.
Did the
Yeah,
Crash trilogy come out in 2019?
I think it came out.
I think it was 2018, right?
And Spyro was 2019?
Yeah, Spyro's 2019.
So
Yeah, that
I like
sounds
the
right.
Spyro remakes. I'd still rather play the originals, but the remakes were pretty good.
Oh no, yeah, no. The Insane trilogy came out in 2017.
Oh wow.
That was a while ago.
So yeah, I think
then
we figured
Spyro
out.
was 2018. Yeah.
Yeah, we figured out remakes, but yeah, I think you're right. Like there are some good remakes recently. They're getting it down to a science.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 2 is the most impressive remake I think I've ever played. Well, no,
Yeah.
that's a lie. Shadow of the Colossus was also very impressive. It's close between those two games. But yeah, the 3 is coming out this year, and I don't see any sign of Capcom, right? It's Capcom who does Resident Evil. I
Yeah.
don't see any sign of Capcom slowing down. I know Resident Evil 4 is extremely well regarded. I haven't personally played it, but that should be, if they're following the schedule, that should be 2021, and that'd be really exciting on next gen consoles, no less.
I'm glad that they're going back and kind of reimagining those first 3 games because they were a product of their time.
Yeah,
The camera angles was always skewed, especially for 2, and you had a fixed camera, and it was just an awkward control scheme because we were still figuring out how to do games at that point.
yeah.
3D space was not. Yeah.
I was definitely
So-
able to appreciate, even without playing the original, like it felt like a modern game, and to me that was so impressive that they were
Yeah.
able to apply today's modern philosophies to a game that is, like 2 decades old at this point.
Yeah,
At
Resident
least-
Evil 2 was released in the 90s, I want to say,
Yeah.
because Resident Evil 3 was 1999.
Yeah. I'm kind of surprised they haven't gone back and remade. Like I know they're re-releasing them, but they haven't remade the Devil May Cry games. And Devil May Cry started out as a spin-off of Resident Evil. It was like a low-budget spin-off, and obviously it is not that, but that's what it started out as.
Yeah, people still view that as kind of edgy, but when you look at it, it's not edgy at all. Devil May
What?
Cry is very comedic in its
Oh yeah,
edginess.
no, I was gonna say it's edgy to the point of comedy. I was gonna
It's-
say like
It's the most
very
over.
edgy, but
It's
I
the most
love it.
over the top thing I've
It's
ever
not
seen.
like dark and grimy. It's more like, hey, let's kill some demons.
But a Devil May Cry 3 HD remake, oh my god, like if it looked as good as Devil May Cry 5 did, like 1 and 3 could both be amazing. 2 definitely not really worth acknowledging. And I'm playing through 4 right now, and I don't know where I stand on whether or not it needs a remake. It looks fairly good. And
Yeah.
it plays okay.
But yeah, moving on, The Last of Us Part 2.
I was about to
Yeah.
mention that. That's
Yeah.
coming out.
That's, has potential. I think, in my mind at least,
It's gonna eat a lot of Game of the Year awards.
the competition between Game of the Year is between The Last of Us and Cyberpunk. I think that's what it's going to boil down to.
Dude,
Are you
the idea
throwing
of The
Dying
Last of
Light
Us
out of there?
2 I get that they're good games, but the idea of that winning Game of the Year makes me sick.
Why is that?
It's just a good game. Like it doesn't do anything interesting.
Your opinion is so wrong.
Like
I mean-
I've played The Last of Us and I liked it a lot.
I
but
love
it's
The Last
so
of Us,
nothing.
but-
Like if it was
So
a
did you-
movie, it'd
Did
be
you play it
forgotten.
when it came out, though?
Yeah.
So when it came out, it was pretty, like, we really didn't have games like that did what The Last of Us did that well at that point. It really sort of set a benchmark.
I
In
mean,
terms
what
of
it does is
narrative
just be an
and-
8-hour movie. Like it just, and if it was a movie, it'd
But
have
the
been
gameplay
forgotten
is
by now.
really good.
Yeah, it
movies
is.
don't
But
have
it's not
gameplay.
better than Uncharted. Like it's just good.
No, it is definitely better than Uncharted.
It's
That's
just,
where I disagree.
Like it's just good gameplay. Like it's a good game. I'm not saying it's an 8 or 9 out of 10, but it's not Game of the Year. Not against the other stuff coming out. Not the year it came out, and not this year.
Well,
I mean,
You'll
it's
be
it's
proven
even a
wrong
good
at the end of the
story.
year.
Like I just don't, I don't want to say that it's not a good story, but it's just not like nothing about it screams video game. Like, it's not like Nier Automata where it like uses the fact that it's a game to enhance its story. It doesn't.
I mean, but that's sort of Naughty Dog's bread and butter, right? Like cinematic video game playing. That's what they've been doing for the past decade plus now.
Yeah, and they're really good at it.
They're the ones that sort of created that style of video game with Uncharted, and sort of mastered it with Uncharted 2 and just kept refining it.
Yeah, and it's good. It's just not the best of the best.
See,
they're not
Everyone
even
knows-
the ones telling the best stories anymore, I don't think. Like,
see,
the
the
whole
stories
zombie
are
thing is
just-
so played out in 2020.
okay, yes, the zombie thing is played out, but that really is sort of irrelevant. What matters is how is their characters and how they interact and how they develop. I still think they do that better than pretty much everyone else in the gaming industry.
See, I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but I remember playing on like The Last of Us 1 when it came out, and I was just like, why did anybody care about this? Like, it's really good, but it's really good in the same way Uncharted 3 was, and nobody cared about Uncharted 3.
I mean, I loved
That's-
Uncharted 3, but
I
didn't
liked it.
Uncharted
Like
4.
I said, I really like these games. They're just not award winners.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think when push comes to shove at the end of the year, it's going to be between Cyberpunk and The Last of Us.
Yeah, I agree. I think it will be, but
But
I don't
you know,
think it should be.
there are so many good games coming out this year.
Yeah.
Dying Light 2.
Dying Light 2 is going to be
I'm
pretty big.
so excited.
Yeah.
I loved the original Dying Light. You also have Ghost of Tsushima coming out.
Oh, I completely forgot
Summer
about that. Yeah,
2020.
that's a huge one as well. Huge PlayStation exclusive. And
Marvel's
it wouldn't
Avengers.
surprise me if that also came out on PS5 as a launch game. Yeah, Avengers as
Godfall.
well.
Godfall's
So
coming
Avengers, let's just talk
Avengers?
about Avengers for a minute.
It has me
Avengers, yeah,
Like-
it didn't really impress me when I saw it, but I feel like after the success of Spider-Man on PlayStation, I feel like Marvel won't allow a mediocre Marvel game to be put out. I feel like
Square
they'll,
Enix is such a weird choice for a developer for an Avengers game,
yeah.
right? Like,
It is strange, especially for the sort of like Destiny-like they're trying to make, which is strange.
it doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah. But I have a hunch that Marvel as a corporation will not allow Square Enix to put out a bad game. They'll either
I hope so.
make them give it more time or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just from what I've seen, I don't know if more time is gonna help. Like, it just kind of looks like a flawed concept.
Yeah, but I don't know. They
I
might
want
just
it to
keep
be good.
throwing money
I want
at it
desperately for it to be good.
until it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a good Avengers game, my God, that would be so much fun,
Yeah, but God knows we've had them canceled before. Like, there was a first-person brawler around when the movie came out that got canceled.
Oh, really? I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it's weird. I can maybe link it to you later. It looked really weird, but it didn't look bad. But I see why they canceled it. Like, a first-person Hulk game, really? Like,
Yeah.
that's a weird take.
Next huge one on this list, Cyberpunk 2077,
Oh boy, I'm excited.
filled to the brim of the glory of Keanu Reeves.
I was excited for this, but they've kind of like, I don't think anybody knows what it is anymore. Like, they've
That's
said
because
that it's not.
they've barely put out
Yeah.
any information.
Like, everybody was so sure it was going to be this open world, like Fallout style thing, I think, and now they've said like, no, it's more of a linear story, and like,
No. It's absolutely open. It's just, the entire game takes place in one city. So it's not necessarily as vast, as horizontally vast as, a game like Skyrim or Fallout.
Like The
or
Witcher.
The Witcher is probably the.
Or The Witcher, right? That's the best
Yeah.
comparison. But in terms of like vertical vastness, no game's going to be as vertically vast as this game. Like each, building and skyscraper will have a certain verticality to it and its exploration that really hasn't been explored before, at least from the vibe I'm getting from this game. And just CD Projekt has quickly risen to like Rockstar level status
Yeah,
which is really kind of remarkable to see. They sort of just did it with one game. Like The Witcher 3 became huge.
yeah,
Like it became so huge. We now have like a Netflix series and a
yeah.
card game and all sorts of things.
And I'm really hesitant to like put all my cards on a developer that like has one great game. Like I'm not. Lightning doesn't always strike twice. So.
But if you look at their pedigree, I think they've just been getting better with each game. Like The Witcher 2 was better than The Witcher, and The Witcher 3 was better than The Witcher 2.
I've definitely got my eye on Cyberpunk, but I'm hesitant because we haven't seen anything. Like all
for
we've seen are these
Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
For Cyberpunk, I'm absolutely going to wait until the PlayStation 5 version comes out. I'm not buying a current gen version.
Oh yeah, they've already said that. Well, they've said that like current gen systems cause the delay, but like all games run like garbage until like right before they come out. So that's nothing, you know?
Yeah.
That's.
But I can clearly see like the ambition of this game screams next gen to me. Like you have like busy city streets with people doing their own thing. Everyone has their own animations and stuff like that. Like I just don't see how something like that is going to happen believably on this console generation with the limited CPU.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I don't think. I think if they thought it was going to make them look bad, they wouldn't even release it this gen. But
yeah, that's true.
So we'll see. It's definitely a game I've got my eye on. I just don't. There's no cinematic trailer that can get me excited for something. I don't think.
Yeah.
Like maybe like these franchises that already exist and like I already know what the gameplay is going to be look like. You can get me hyped with a cinematic trailer, but I've just been burned so many times on a cinematic trailer that has nothing to do with the actual game.
Yeah, I have faith in CD Projekt though, and plus I jokingly said it before, but Keanu Reeves being in this game is a pretty big deal. Like,
yeah, no.
And
it's
he
weird.
even said that he enjoyed his time like doing mocap and recording for the game so much they actually like doubled or tripled his time in the game because he just
Really?
kept wanting to do stuff. Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, Keanu Reeves is one of the big faces of like modern cyberpunk media from
It's
his
not his
time
first
in
game,
The
though.
Matrix. Yeah.
He was in John Wick X.
There's a John Wick game.
Yeah, it was made by the Bithell Games, the same guys that did Thomas Was Alone and Volume.
Was it any good?
It's a hex grid strategy game.
What? Who looks at John Wick
Hold
and
on.
thinks of
I just remember
strategy?
getting a Matrix 4.
Yeah,
Why are we getting a fourth Matrix?
We're also getting a Bill and Ted this year, so
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves has been busy. But
Resurgence of- So
yeah,
like
no,
between
John Wick
last
Hex is like
podcasts-
one of those games like people like it if they're into that sort of thing, but it's
Okay.
I don't
just
know.
think
I'm
it's
a huge
hilarious
Bithell Games
that they
fan.
made John Wick into a hex-based strategy game. So I got into John Wick between last podcast and this podcast, and it's quickly become like my favorite action trilogy movies of all time. I love the John Wick movies.
I
would
meaning to
love,
sit down and listen to them or listen to them, watch them.
They need to have like an action, like not like a third-person shooter, like action game, like the equivalent of Devil May Cry, except it's all guns. That's what John Wick needs to be.
Mike Bithell has gone on record a couple times and explained why he didn't do that, and I think it was like he couldn't find a way to make the player feel like they were as good as John Wick unless he slowed it down to the point that it was a strategy game.
Interesting.
Like,
I
in order
definitely
to
feel
make
like-
you as cool as John Wick, it had to be that.
I mean, I absolutely think it's a very hard thing to do, but I think it can be done in the right with the right hands.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you'd have to look at the game. It reviewed well. Like, people liked it. So,
Yeah,
and it's
That-
not like a
I'll-
mobile game.
I
Like,
might
it's
look-
a full release.
I'll look into it simply because I've been thirsting for more John Wick content lately.
Yeah.
But like, so we just covered a huge slew of games that in any other year each of them could probably win Game of the Year. That's like sort of to state the gravity of like how good these games are probably going to be. But like we haven't even gotten into the next gen releases because we know there will be exclusives released with
yeah.
the next gen consoles. We know one for sure. Halo Infinite is coming out launch day for Xbox Series X.
Definitely.
It's not an exclusive though.
It's not an exclusive.
Yeah.
It's going to be on
Xbox
PC
no longer
and
has
Xbox One.
exclusives.
So
and that's
that-
the thing.
So the thing about it being on Xbox One worries me greatly, because I feel like we're inherently inhibiting the potential of Halo Infinite with it being on Xbox One.
That's how PC players have felt for years, Ahmed.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point.
yeah, Halo just, I don't know.
Halo's not
There
what it
hasn't
used
been
to
a
be.
good Halo game in a long time anyway. Hot
Halo's
take.
not what it used to be, but I
yeah.
think that's a normal take at this point.
Like,
Halo-
Halo Infinite was not a contender for Game of the Year.
right.
It's
I-
just,
I mean,
also
well,
it's too late.
It's sort of an unknown commodity. All we have about Halo Infinite right now is like a trailer.
A trailer,
That it didn't even show gameplay. Like Halo in its prime is a force to be reckoned with. It's just
Oh,
a
for
question
sure.
of can it reach those heights again with this entry? Personally,
I
I
don't
feel like
know.
that's a long shot, but the potential is certainly there.
343 has never proven that they can do that, so we'll see. I'm not confident. And like you said, like they are kind of shooting themselves in the foot by not doing next gen, like by not doing a hard cutoff, they're not going to be able to do like you look at a game on the PS3 versus a launch title on the PS4, and like you can see there's a marked
Right.
difference, you know?
Yeah.
Same
And you
with
know
the
Sony will-
360 and the one.
Sony will absolutely put out PlayStation 5 only games.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about Horizon 2 earlier in the podcast, but I personally feel like that's not going to be a launch game. Like maybe like launch window, like several months after, like 3 to 6 months after the PS5 comes out, we'll see Horizon 2 come out. Like it just still seems like a little too soon to me for Horizon 2 to be a thing. I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah. It's
but
also pretty rare outside of like Nintendo consoles for launch titles to be like stellar, like
Yeah.
really crazy good. Like Nintendo got us with Super Mario 64, and they got us with Breath of the Wild. But like looking back, like I can't think of a lot of system seller launch titles. It's usually 6 months later
Yeah.
or something that they slam you hard.
You're absolutely right. I mean, even looking at the PS4, Xbox One, there was virtually nothing. Like no
Oh yeah, the PS4
exclusives
had no
at
games
launch.
for like a year and a half or something, other
Yeah.
than Bloodborne.
To the point where it became sort of a meme, you know.
Yeah.
And then they, then 20
Then they really did it, yeah.
2016, 2017 happened, and like they sort of just game after game after game, Horizon, God of War, Spider-Man, like it totally knocked our socks off. you
No,
know?
they did. Speaking of like exclusives, and I'm kind of swapping topics here. Halo Reach came out on PC
It did.
during
yeah,
that
it came
time.
out on the Master Chief Collection, right?
Yeah, it's the first Master Chief Collection game to be ported to PC, and it's an okay port.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I played the campaign, and I like Halo Reach is like the start of the end for me with Halo. Like I've barely played 1 through 3, but I know that they're like these super bombastic things where the Master Chief is like this superhero running around single-handedly saving the human race, and Reach is not that. Reach is like this losing battle you're fighting the whole time, and it was like the start of like armor powers or whatever and stuff, which I don't love.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that in Halo.
Yeah. So I'm excited for Halos 1 through 3, and I played Reach because I was like just excited to have Halo on PC, but the port had a lot of issues, honestly. Like some weird like button mapping issues, like you could not walk and crouch at the same time. I don't know if they fixed that since then, but you had to
I think it's a bug with the because it was originally for a controller, and you had an analog stick.
right.
So you could crouch while going slowly forward, but you could not go full tilt and crouch.
Yeah.
You can't emulate
on,
that on a keyboard.
Yeah, on PC you have to stop moving, then crouch, and then start moving again while you're crouched if you want to crouch and walk at the same time. Like, and that really, and also there were just some weird audio bugs where like it sounded like I was losing radio signal. Like it just got really scratchy and stuff. It just, I don't know. It needed some more time in the oven, I think.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even like I didn't get a lot of frame rate issues or anything like the stuff you expect. It was just really weird stuff like that.
Yeah. But there's still a couple games I want to hit on.
For 2020.
Elden Ring doesn't have a release date,
yeah.
but if that comes out this year, I feel like that could go toe to toe with Cyberpunk and The Last of Us.
Yeah, that would go toe to toe with Doom and Animal Crossing for Game of the Year for me easily.
Yeah, I mean, From Software's
for the real Game of the Year.
Yeah, whatever. From Software's new marquee title, and plus just everything we've heard about it so far, it seems like so much more ambitious than anything they've done before. And Miyazaki is yet to put out a game that isn't anything short of stellar. So I love
Miyazaki's writing style, but I love the idea because there's not a lot of narrative in Dark Souls, you know? Like it's a beautiful world. Yeah. But you bring in George R.R. Martin, who Miyazaki's designing this world with George R.R. Martin, and then a narrative that actually makes sense on top of that, and you've really got something.
Yeah, when they said George R.R. Martin was doing the world design, well, not the world design, but the narrative design for this game, I couldn't believe. I thought it was some sort of joke or something. But no, that's actually happening.
I'm not even a Game of Thrones fan, and his being on this project has me very excited.
Yeah. And then there's one other game I wanted to talk about. We know Bluepoint is putting out a PlayStation 5 exclusive at launch. And they've been teasing us for months as to what it could be. But the current rumor is that it is a full-blown remake of Demon's Souls. And Bluepoint is the one that did the Shadow of the Colossus remake, and they do sort of the remakes for Sony.
Okay.
At least that's sort of what they've been doing the past few years. But
yeah, a Demon's Souls remake would be
that
amazing.
Would be absolutely. That game, I would be over the moon for that.
That game could use a Dark Souls level accessibility up, because it is a little harder to get into than Dark Souls, which is a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. Plus, having a PS5 coat of paint on it.
Oh yeah. Because that game, I have a hard time saying what I'm about to say. The world was really cool, but the graphics weren't that great, if that makes any sense. It
was jaggy.
Yeah, and it had some weird shader choices, some weird amounts of bloom on some stuff. They just hadn't quite gotten the tech down, I feel like. And it was a budget game, Demon's Souls. When Miyazaki was put on Demon's Souls, they thought that game was going to tank, and he kind of saved it.
Right, yeah.
I would play that.
But, Demon's Souls,
I would be very excited.
People often attribute the rise of the difficult third-person action RPG game to Dark Souls, and rightfully so. Dark Souls is the one that sort of created a new genre of video game in the 2010s. Yeah. But the first one was Demon's Souls. Dark Souls was the popular one, but the first iteration of that idea was Demon's Souls. And to see that world, those concepts fully realized on a modern platform, I think would be wonderful. I hope that those rumors hold water. But there's some other rumors going around that maybe it's a remake of Metal Gear Solid, maybe it's a remake of Legend of Dragoon. There's all sorts of things it could be. But I think the consensus right now is that it's probably Demon's Souls.
Metal Gear Solid's already gotten a few remakes, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, the GameCube put out a remake, right?
Yeah, I think so. Twin Snakes, maybe?
Yeah, you're right. And I don't think it was that great, so they might.
But yeah, Jason Schreier from Kotaku, who's renowned for having
he's pretty
tons of insider knowledge, he's sort of hinted that it was Demon's Souls, so that's super exciting. And I mean, guys, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, plus all of these games, what an exciting time to be into video games.
And speaking of the Series X, have you guys heard of Xbox All Access?
Is that just Game Pass and Live combined?
It's more than that. It's literally, I think $20 a month, and you get an Xbox One S. You have to commit to pay it for 2 years. but it's not that much more expensive than Game Pass Ultimate, and you get Game Pass Ultimate, which includes Game Pass Console, Game Pass PC, and Xbox Live, and then they also give you an Xbox One S Digital Edition. And then I think $23 a month, you get an Xbox One S that can read discs. $30 a month, you get an Xbox One X.
That's wild.
And like, there's no way they're not going to have a version of that for the Series X. And like, that could easily be like, you know, I get Xbox All Access. That's me already, like, I'm getting the PC games, and then I get an Xbox One or an Xbox Series X too, like, and I'll have the online, not have to worry about it. And so, you know, I get the handful of console exclusives, and that, like, that's huge for somebody like me. Like my position as like a PC gamer who likes Game Pass. That's a hell of a deal.
Microsoft's strategies are super exciting because they're really sort of challenging all the conventions of the industry right now. We haven't even talked about their rumored second console. Have you guys heard about this?
No.
Yeah, so apparently the rumor goes that in addition to the Xbox Series X, Microsoft is going to release a weaker console at launch that will be streaming only.
That wouldn't surprise me with their xCloud and stuff. I mean, there's a lot of streaming stuff. Have you guys heard of GeForce Now?
Yeah.
It's like NVIDIA's actually functional competitor to Stadia. Yeah. And I guess it's as good as a streaming platform can be right now. You know, we all live in West Virginia. We're not going to get a good streaming platform here.
Oh gosh! Speaking of Stadia, I mean, the last time
it's been like
on the show,
43 days.
I think the last time we left off on the show, we were all sort of hopeful, seeing what it could be, excited. What a disaster!
Yeah, I mean,
unmitigated disaster.
The only thing they've announced since it came out is that they have no announcements. Like, even the diehard Stadia fans are upset.
Yeah, Google's. I could see Google absolutely killing it in a so.
I just want to say that I said it on the last time we talked about it. Google's going to abandon Stadia. It's not even going to survive a year. Like, they just don't. They don't do things. Have you seen the Stadia commercial?
No.
Everybody who listens to this needs to watch the Stadia commercial, because it just immediately tells you everything you need to know about whether or not Google knows anything about video games. It's just so awful. It's so tone deaf.
I mean, I think to even stand a chance, they need to have it like be subscription based, right? Like you buy a Stadia subscription, you get all the games with it. You like to have the notion of having to buy games for $60 a piece on Stadia is absurd.
And on top of that, they don't have like taking a step back, you know, you and I are software engineers. We both can see that there's stuff you could do on Stadia, like a type of multiplayer game you could do on Stadia that you could not do on other platforms because of latency. And they're just not. There's nothing that Stadia is doing right now.
Google has a couple first-party developers making some games, right? I think they have like
a couple of those games are out, and they're just nothing. They're like single-player experiences. Like, they're not using the technology.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild to me. Like, I think what's going to happen here is, you know, I think Microsoft's going to absolutely capture this market with xCloud.
I think so too.
And I think, you know, Stadia was the first sort of meh attempt, and then Microsoft's just going to take that space by storm. Because, like, really, who are Microsoft's competitors in that space? It's not Sony. Sony has no cloud infrastructure. They have Gaikai, which they bought years ago for streaming capabilities, but that's nowhere on the level of Azure, right?
Their competitor, competition is Amazon. If Amazon decides to get into it,
AWS is their most obvious competitor. AWS is the largest, you know, cloud provider in the world right now. But, you know, Amazon, not really into games right now. But
that's not totally true. I mean, they bought CryEngine.
Yeah, I mean, Amazon, I guess what I'm getting at is, like, they're certainly not into games at the same level as Microsoft or even Google at this point, I would say. But I think that if they wanted to, like, they absolutely have the funds to just jump in whenever they want and start competing. But, you know, games take time, you know, like, I don't think it's good enough to just offer all the third-party games. I think you need to have a strong first-party lineup. And Microsoft's building that with Series X. Especially with all the studios they purchased, along with their, you know, the ones they already had working on Halo and Forza.
Yeah, and honestly, Rare is in a better place now
Yeah.
than it's been in a long time. You know?
Rare's becoming. I mean, I still think they're a shadow of their former self, but they're becoming competitive again.
Yeah. Sea of Thieves is a much better game now than when it released, but I'm gonna talk about that later.
But I still think Rare. The most interesting thing about Rare is, to me, when are they going to pull the banjo trigger? Because
Yeah, right.
I feel like it's inevitable at this point. We saw
Yeah,
him
3D,
like
the
especially
3D platformer's back. You know?
and especially with him being in Smash and the
Yeah.
overwhelmingly positive reaction to that. I think they must realize at this point that people want banjo.
It's gonna be a Series X launch title, I bet.
Day one Series X, if that's true. No
Yeah.
questions asked. I will pay $500 for that console.
Well, I doubt it'll be exclusive. It'll come to PC too.
Yeah, but you know me, I'm a console guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Software engineer and I'm a console guy. What kind of weird paradox am I, right?
Well, you also have a MacBook, so you know, you just can't be helped.
I'm recording on a Windows laptop right now. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's what a year. The next gen consoles are going to be wild. I just want to talk about their SSD tech at PlayStation for a minute.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be amazing. I don't think it's going to be.
I mean,
like,
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't think it's going to be better than what we have on. Like, I think it's going to be exactly as good or slightly better than what we have on PC right now. I think they're doing stuff on the software side that's making it load, like that's getting them those crazy load times that they're talking about. Cause like it doesn't add up. If Sony had that technology, like hard drives are useful for things outside of gaming. Like they would be selling that solid state, right? Like it doesn't add up to me that they would hold on to that.
I think
not sell it.
Maybe after the launch of PlayStation 5, they'll commercialize it because everything I've seen saying it's like a super awesome custom SSD hardware solution.
Yeah, but they were saying stuff like that about the PS3 too, and it ended up being like half true. Like not about the load times, but about like the way the GPU
The cell
worked on the
processor.
PS3. Yeah, like Sony has a history with this sort of thing of like
But
finding a way to make it amazing, even if it's just really good.
But see, I think it's in this day and age when they say something like this, they have to be able to back it up, because like there's so many people that can call them out on BS now. Like back then,
they don't get any repercussions for being called out on it.
But what I'm saying is like I think the odds of them actually having a super special awesome SSD are actually higher than them not having it based off their comments.
I disagree. I think it's going to be a really good SSD, but I don't see it being better than like top of the line SSDs that are on PC right now, which is what they're claiming. Like
yeah, they are claiming that. Yeah,
they're claiming it's like 50% faster than the best SSD you can buy right now, and that's just absurd to me.
Their R&D team's definitely at work.
Yeah. That just doesn't make sense as something to focus on to me. Also, are both next gen consoles going to have RTX?
Yes, hardware.
Probably,
they're
yeah.
going to have hardware level ray tracing, which is just bonkers.
See, there's so much that opens the door to. If it's the same technology, is it NVIDIA or is it AMD?
I think it's a custom NVIDIA. Shit.
Okay.
Let me.
If it's NVIDIA, like the stuff you can do with those cores outside of ray tracing is amazing. Like, are you guys familiar with DLSS?
No, can you explain?
It's like you render the frame at whatever resolution, like 1080p or something, and then at almost zero cost, you can upscale it with using AI, and it's like a perfect upscale to if it was 1080, it's like you can take it from whatever it is to the next step. So like if it was 720, you could take it to 1080. If it's 1080, you can take it to 4K.
Yeah,
like
that's crazy.
It's super powerful, and like using AI, like you can run AI on an RTX core and do that, and like it's almost flawless. Like playing a 60 frame per second game at 4K, you would not notice anything wrong with it. Like, and that's crazy. Like the fact that these games could be running natively at 1080p opens the door to crazy high frame rates if you're using a technology like DLSS to then boost it up to 4K, and then you've got 4K 60, maybe higher, and like that's incredible.
I also think, or actually, to go back a little bit, what I was going to say in that SSD discussion, I think the biggest thing though is that it will alter game design, right? Like we won't have like those, hey, I'm going to crawl through this crevice really slowly while the next area loads.
Oh
We
yeah,
won't have
that'll
that sort
probably
of
be
thing
gone.
anymore. We won't
Well-
have like all the unnecessary climbing sections. Well,
Those crevices will be shorter. You'll still have to have something because they still like RAM is still finite. Like you're still gonna have to unload the previous area. But it can
Yeah,
be
but
like
it's
a
going to
single
be-
door now.
it's going to be like sub 1 second
Yeah.
in most cases now, whereas before it was like 10, 15 seconds. Like I can point to examples in Uncharted and God of War where, like you're just shuffling through a crevice. The most
God.
recent example I would say is Jedi Fallen Order, which I highly recommend. Really good Souls light type Star Wars game. But like there were so many points at which, Cal, the protagonist, would just squeeze his way through a crevice for like 20 seconds and I'm like, all right, come on. We don't need to do
Yeah.
this.
Could have just given me a load screen. Like I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. And plus,
No,
yeah.
I agree. Like that stuff is gonna.
And plus, like for
Change.
Souls games and like lots of other games, utilize the load screen to like give tips and like tricks and stuff like that. Probably won't be too big of a thing anymore.
Yeah, I haven't seen those in. I've been on PC. I haven't seen those in a long time anyway. But yeah, those are gonna go away.
yeah.
But even on a fast hard drive, sometimes you don't see those. Like the hard drives used in consoles are not great. Like even on a fast hard drive on PC, you don't see those a lot of the time. So not even using an SSD.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So-
let me correct something I said earlier. I think the GPUs are produced in concert with AMD, not
Okay.
Nvidia. Yeah.
So I don't know the DLSS. I think DLSS is an NVIDIA technology. So I don't know. Because people were talking about it being potentially used on a Switch Pro, because that's NVIDIA.
Yeah, but even a Switch Pro, like a theoretical Switch Pro, I would imagine to be on the level of like a PS4 Pro, Xbox One X at the most.
Yeah.
Pro-
Oh
it would
yeah.
probably
It's
be
not going
less
to be
than
next
that.
gen level.
would
Yeah, I
probably
think
be
it
less
would be
than
on
that.
the level of PS4 Basic at most,
Yeah.
probably.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, it's portable. What do you expect? I do not play the Switch for high fidelity graphics. I play it for the best games.
Yeah, honestly.
But-
So what about that Vita 3 that'll run
That'll
4K
never
games?
happen. I would buy it probably. No, I don't know. I have played my Vita recently. Like I'm not somebody that slept on the Vita. but
The Vita's great, and it's
it's
crime.
a great console to mod.
It's a crime
sure.
that it wasn't that no one cared about it. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, Sony cared about it least of all. That was the problem with it. Never had any games.
Yeah, it had what did it had? It had like an exclusive Little Big Planet. It had like an exclusive Uncharted, but it wasn't developed by Naughty Dog. It was developed
Yeah,
by
and Little
Ben.
Big Planet wasn't made by Media Molecule. It was made by a different company. Although it
Yeah.
was good, and Uncharted was good too. Those were both good games.
And they
but-
put out a Killzone on it, which
Yeah,
I
they
hear
did.
was quite good, but it just wasn't enough.
Yeah.
But I do think at some point, do you think Microsoft and Sony will look at Nintendo again, like they have in the past, right? Like with the Wii, and be
Yeah.
like, hey, I want a slice of that pie, because they have this demographic essentially all to themselves.
Yeah,
And,
I think they're gonna realize that they can't get it. Like, I mean, Sony said before that they have no interest in getting back into mobile. If Xbox gets into mobile, they're gonna do it by way of probably an
xCloud,
attachment for your
yeah.
phone. Yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah.
xCloud, and they'll sell like Nintendo Switch style Snap-on controllers for your phone or something like that. They're not
See,
gonna
but-
sell a console.
That
Well,
in
unless
my
they
mind
do
though,
sell a
that's just
tablet.
like in my mind though, that's just like a cheap imitation though, right? Because like the game design changes on a fundamental level because of the hardware for the Switch. Like developers do
Oh.
all sorts of cool stuff with the Joy-Cons being detached or attached, and like HD Rumble and all that sort of stuff. So if it's just some optional thing, like it won't be able to have that, custom secret sauce that makes that console special.
Yeah, and I just don't see them. I think Nintendo has such a strong hold on that market that I think that they're going to be smart enough, because they've never been able to compete in that arena. I mean, Sony's tried twice. to mixed success. The PSP did okay, but it didn't outsell the Game Boy Advance, and it certainly didn't outsell the DS or 3DS.
Yeah.
You know, it just I think they know better. You know, they're not going to be able to. I mean, everybody has a Switch now. Everybody. Like,
yeah, I think its sell-through rate is comparable to the Wii, maybe a little under. I think
it's
if I
beat the
remember
SNES.
statistic.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's,
it's
it's 52
you know,
million. I think. I think they've pushed 52 million units.
right. I'm not saying the total units sold. I'm saying like the rate at which it's selling is comparable to the Wii.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, goodness, to keep up with the Wii. It's not the PS2, but it's, you know,
Right.
it's crazy how many they're
Yeah.
selling.
And it's, you know, when you say it's not the PS2, it's funny. We can say now that it's not the PS4 either, because the PS4 is still tracking higher than the PS2 in terms of how quickly it's selling, which is just absurd to me.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Like when all's said and done, the PS4, there's a good chance it'll outsell the PS2.
That'll be incredible.
Yeah.
See, I feel weird about that because the PS2, like, there's an easy thing to point to how they did it. Like, it was just a cheap DVD player, you know?
Yeah.
DVD players were really expensive. PS2s were not that expensive and also played games. It was the obvious choice. But
see,
with the PS4, it's not that simple.
But see, like that. So your point stands, right? Back then, the DVD player was a huge selling point, but gaming has become so much bigger.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a bigger
like,
audience now.
Gaming
Yeah.
is generates the most revenue out of any form of entertainment media. You know, like it's bigger than movies. It's bigger than TV.
Yeah, and I forget
like-
that a lot of the time because, like, you know, I think when we were all like younger, like that wasn't really true.
Oh, absolutely not true. Yeah, it's
Gaming was fairly niche, but now, like,
I mean,
you hop
Microsoft
on,
and Sony
like,
are making,
everybody I see on Twitter is like, yeah, you know, talking about playing Fortnite or playing Apex Legends. Like,
yeah, gaming has absolutely become mainstream. But not only that,
Yeah.
you know, like Microsoft and Sony are making like $10+ billion a year off of gaming profits alone. You know, like.
all of
So-
my friends that have moved in with their significant others, like, have to decide whether, you know, which PS4 goes in the living room and which one goes in the bedroom because both of them had one, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it's
Yes.
crazy that we're seeing that level of ubiquity, and that makes me even more excited going forward. Because, like, you know, like we saw that sort of peak in the past. You know, like the PS2 era, everyone had a PS2, right? But like that number dropped like a rock when PS3 came out.
yeah.
I don't think we'll see something like that now. I think gaming's in a much different spot, and I think the momentum that Sony and Microsoft have from the PS4 and Xbox One, respectively, I think they'll just keep snowballing, and I'm really excited to see where it's going to go.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it's time to talk about what games we've been playing, right?
So what have you been playing, Connor?
I kind of want to, where we haven't recorded in a year, I kind of want to do more than one game, maybe.
Yeah,
Like,
do
go-
as many
go
games as
around.
you want. I don't like the rules. I'm anti-rule now. No rules. Just talk
No
about
rules.
So the first game I want to talk about is Sea of Thieves because I, on this very podcast, gave it. I said some harsh things
You
about
pooped
that
all
game.
over it. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. And I've been playing it a lot recently, and I want to preface all my statements that, like, I think if I had paid $60 for Sea of Thieves, like, Sea of Thieves does not work as a game that has a $60 buy-in. It just doesn't. But right now, Sea of Thieves has a $1 buy-in because you can get 3 months of Game Pass Ultimate for
Yeah.
$1. And so, like, I started playing it. I got one of my friends, like, 9 months of Game Pass for Christmas. Like, I gave him 6 months of Xbox Live, and he paid $1 to make it 9 months of Game Pass Ultimate.
Mm-hmm.
And we started playing it a bunch, and we're like having some of our other friends join us because the buy-in's only $1. And like, as a free-to-play game that you have in addition to Game Pass, it's really good. Like, it's really fun to just sit down and, like, crazy stuff happens. Like, there are these super intense moments where you have a ton of treasure on your ship, and like, gathering that treasure may not have been the most riveting stuff because it's usually just like having a map and going and finding it. But then once you have it, protecting it is super interesting because you're like
Yeah.
super tense looking out for other players, or like, God forbid the Kraken shows up and starts sinking you, you know? And it's super interesting because you get into like, it just creates these really cool stories. Like, you know, there was the other day, me and my buddy Tyler were playing, and we didn't have anything on our ship. We had one thing, and another ship comes up, and it's bigger than us. There's only 2 of us. There were 4 of these guys, and they start shooting at us. And so, like, I sneak off the side of the ship, and Tyler just keeps sailing off into the distance. I go sell the only valuable thing we had, and then Tyler manages to get on board their ship and, like, sneak off with everything that they had. And so
That's awesome.
we weren't even the aggressors in this situation, and we made out scot-free and, like, with a huge profit. And, like, it just creates really cool stories like that. But, like, to get to that point, you have to do some boring stuff, kinda.
Yeah, because
And
like I've talked about Sea of Thieves before, and I think I told you guys that like I tried playing it and like couldn't really figure out what was going on. I think I was stuck in like a mandatory tutorial, and I didn't want to do it, and I tried
Yeah,
to
the
sail off, and it
tutorial's
just
optional
didn't work.
now. First
Okay.
of all, the tutorial's optional now. But yeah, it like you kind of have to. It doesn't show you the fun like the way
Yeah,
it
it's
kind of
like
needs to.
it's like
there's
emergent,
all
right?
these-
It's about like just making them, like
yeah, there's
things
all these
happening
mission
with
types to do too, and like
Yeah.
over half of them suck. They're not fun at all. And so like me and Tyler have played a little bit now, and we know which mission types we actually have fun doing, and we pick those. But like it starts you off pretty weak. I'll say that. And like all the upgrades are cosmetic, so you don't really feel like you're working towards anything either. Because like I'm at a point now where I have all the cosmetics I want, and I'm never gonna want more cosmetics. So like I'm just playing the game to have fun now.
Yeah.
There's nothing to work towards. But like it's a cool game. Like after work, me and Tyler are both tired, and we just want to kind of steer a boat for an hour, you know?
Yeah.
And if something exciting happens, then that's neat. But
But if not, that's okay too.
yeah, exactly. And it, like I said, as something superfluous to Game Pass, I'm not somebody that gets into multiplayer games a whole lot. So as something superfluous to Game Pass, which I play largely for like the single player experiences, is
Yeah.
pretty awesome. It's just something cool to chill and talk to my buds for a couple hours a day.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I'll pass it on to somebody else while I collect my thoughts on my next game.
Sure. Okay. I guess I can go. I've been playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So I'm over 40 hours in now, and it is absolutely massive. Like not just the map, just the scope of the story itself, and a lot of the side quests I would say are almost Witcher-esque in that like they feed back into other plot lines in ways you wouldn't expect, which is quite surprising to me.
That's good writing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also think it's really cool that like you can choose between a male and female character at the beginning. You could be either Alexios or Cassandra. And like all the dialogue is fully voiced, so they had to go through twice, in the game and voice all the dialogue. And for like what I'm presuming is like, close to 100-hour game, that's no small feat,
Yeah.
especially in a game with, optional dialogue like this one, like that sort of just blew me away. And like I picked Alexios, and I've been pretty impressed by his voice acting thus far. I think the characters are pretty likable, and which, Assassin's Creed really isn't known for that. I've grown attached to quite a few of the characters at this point in Odyssey, and I'm pretty invested in the story too, which also, again, really doesn't happen with Assassin's Creed games, for me at least. I've played all
Really?
of them at this point. I mean, Assassin's Creed games beyond. Okay, so let me rephrase. From 1 through, I would say, Black Flag, I was pretty invested in the story, and
Oh, okay. I
especially
didn't play
like
anything after that.
especially like the Ezio trilogy. I loved following Ezio's story, and I loved him as a character. And Black Flag, I think it wasn't as strong as the story as Ezio's story, but like the gameplay, like the pirate setting, and like all of that was so much fun. It sort of made up for it. But then after that, we had Unity, we had Syndicate, and even to an extent Origins, which started this new style of Assassin's Creed game, like an RPG sort of Assassin's Creed. Like my eyes were just sort of glazed over for the whole thing. Like I wasn't really too into it, didn't really care about the characters or the story. But Odyssey sort of pulled me back in to where I do care. And not only that, it sort of made me care about like, the story and those core fundamentals that were key to enjoying early Assassin's Creed games with the enormous open world design and like the RPG elements that they've introduced. So the Assassin's Creed now, the games now are a completely different beast to what they were before, but I think this one's just as good as the older ones, but in a completely different way, if that makes sense. And
yeah, I think it does. And I've always liked just like you were saying, like I think the story, like my eyes would kind of glaze over too, even in the older ones a little bit. But it's the little stuff that I thought was always neat. Like I cared about the characters, like the other pirates in Assassin's Creed 4.
Yeah.
Like I had fun with that. And yeah, like I think story was like a hugely compelling thing for me in those games. So I'm glad they kind of got that back.
Yeah, and I definitely think this, like, Odyssey's really capitalizing on all the best elements from the previous Assassin's Creed games, because for the first time, I think since Black Flag, all of the pirate ship mechanics come back. Like you have a ship in this game that you can upgrade and, you know, recruit for and like all that, and you can board other ships and steal their treasure. Like all the Black Flag naval elements are in this game, in addition to the, you know, all the other stuff I previously discussed, which I really think it gives you the quintessential Assassin's Creed experience. If you consider all the games up to this point, it really lifts the best from all.
They
of them,
really don't want to lose the work they did on that, though. You're saying the next game's going to be Vikings, like they really don't want to do a landlocked setting.
I don't blame them, because that gameplay is so unique. You know, like no other game I had played up until Black Flag did something like that, and I think it's a lot of fun too.
Yeah, it is.
But it's interesting, right? Because like obviously Odyssey is a Greek setting, right? And it takes place in like, you know, centuries before, millennia before, in fact, Assassin's Creed Black Flag took place, right? So the technology is not even close to as advanced, the naval technology. You don't have cannonballs or anything. So like your ship is a lot smaller, obviously, and you're like throwing flaming spears and arrows and stuff instead of like firing cannonballs and stuff like that.
I hadn't even thought of that. That's cool.
But yeah, it's cool. They definitely adapted that gameplay to the time period. But yeah, I definitely recommend giving it a shot, especially if you're a fan of, like I said, the narrative of the older Assassin's Creeds, but like the gameplay of the newer ones. Or if you just want a really good RPG to play, because like this game does not need to be an Assassin's Creed game. It's essentially just.
I mean, that's kind of true of all the new ones, isn't it? Like, I feel like the Assassin's Creed story is over, and they're just making good games with that name. Like,
I mean, there are elements of the story in this game, but it really is about, you know, Alexios or Cassandra and their journey, their odyssey, if you will.
Oh.
But yeah, no, that's what I've been playing almost exclusively. What about you, Mike?
Recently I've actually started playing The Witcher 3.
Awesome.
But
what are you playing it on?
PC.
Okay.
I bought it on PC.
I was gonna say, because I hear it came out on Switch fairly recently, didn't it? Or like within the last year?
Yeah, I think it was last year. But I started playing it on PC. Oh my god, I've had a blast. The Witcher 3 has blown my perception of what an RPG could be.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I could go back and play Skyrim. Like
there are a lot of games that have like Skyrim like put this foundation, right? Like Oblivion, like it cemented this foundation that other games have just blown out of the water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I don't want to sit here and talk trash about Skyrim, but yeah.
The Witcher has completely blown out like everything I thought an RPG was, because I grew up playing Bethesda RPGs, and CD Projekt Red blew that game out of the park. Like there's consequences that you don't even know are going to happen until way later in the game, and it doesn't make it obvious that this is the right decision, because there's not a lot of good decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like really good at creating like morally gray things that'll, you know, come back to bite you later.
It doesn't throw itself out. And like BioWare, there's a bad decision, this is a good decision. CD Projekt Red is like, so do you want to save the kids and ruin an entire city, or do you not want to save the kids and save a ruler and save a region? That's the kind of decisions it throws at you. Someone's gonna die, but you don't know who, and you don't know how, and you don't know when.
God, that sounds so good. You're really
Plus,
selling me on this.
Oh,
yeah,
it's-
no, the story is incredible too, and I also like, you'll probably appreciate this, Connor. Like a big part of the game is like hunting monsters.
Yeah.
That's kind of what a Witcher does, right? And you have like your steel sword for humanoid enemies, and your silver sword for monsters and beasts. And it's Monster Hunter esque in that like there's like a bestiary in the game, and you can like study each one and like look at the weaknesses and stuff that you figure out. And like it's not as straightforward as just like running up to one and hacking at it. Like certain beasts have certain weaknesses. You might have to concoct certain potions or traps to fight them. So that element of the gameplay is really cool, and I think you as a Monster Hunter fan would enjoy that.
Yeah, and the combat's actually kind of difficult. Like you have to think and play dirty to make it through combat. Like there are a lot of like bandit camps full of like 20, 30 people. You can't fight them all at once, especially at the low levels. You have to take them out bit by bit and prioritize who you're going to kill first just so that you can clear it.
Yeah, I need to get back to The Witcher 3. I put 40 hours into it, and then in a tragic turn of events, my save data got deleted. So
Ooh.
ever since then, I was too hurt to go back. But I need to see that game through.
It's good. I've only put 22 hours into it, and I'm having a blast. If I didn't stop to play Hat in Time and 100% complete that, I probably would have finished the game by now.
What a game A Hat in Time is.
Yeah, I've played a lot of games in the last year.
Yeah.
I kind of branched out.
Did you come up with another one, Connor?
Yeah, I wanna talk about Dark Souls 3 for a second because I just finished it here recently. And I think
I've had an itch to play Dark Souls lately. I think as soon as I finish Assassin's Creed, I'm jumping into Dark Souls Remastered. I'll probably buy that. But yeah, sorry.
I think I've talked about Dark Souls 3 on the show before because we were recording at the time when I started playing it, and I think I said some bad stuff about it, I'd say, and I stand by some of that. Like some of my issues are that it's far more linear than the first Dark Souls, and the world doesn't really wrap back on itself the way that I like, Dark Souls 1 does.
Yeah.
But I've played through it recently, and it definitely, I didn't see it the first time I played through it, and now that I kind of am more familiar with the world, it is a lot better than I thought it was in that regard. Like the world is interestingly laid out, and like the story is stellar, of course, the narrative, the
Right.
setting. And I finally played the DLC, and those were both amazing. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it does kind of I hope Dark Souls 3 is the last one. It kind of caps the narrative in a way that I'm happy with.
Yeah, I need to play the DLCs, but it would surprise me if it is, just simply because Dark Souls is such a huge name now in gaming. I feel like
and
there has to
that'll
be
make me
another one.
sad, but I don't know where they would go with it. They can't just do another cycle. It'd be kind of boring. But it just kind of, like I did a New Game Plus through, and I always super enjoy New Game Plus in Dark Souls. Like I always play through at least half of it because it's super fun to just kind of tear through all these guys that gave you so much trouble the first time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just, I don't know. The world makes more sense. It's kind of a good foil for Dark Souls 1. Like all of Dark Souls 1, you're like working your way up to Anor Londo and stuff, and Dark Souls 3, you're working your way down from Lothric.
Right.
And like I'm more familiar with the lore now than I was before, and like a couple of stuff I actually caught myself before I went and watched the Vati video about it to learn about like stuff that we've seen before. Like, oh, this is a place from Dark Souls 2 or Dark Souls 1 that is, somehow here in Lothric.
Yeah.
It's good. It's better than I gave it credit for the first time. I still feel like maybe it should have been more its own game because it super did lean into referencing Dark Souls 1. Like Dark Souls 2.
I really like that about it though. Like like especially as someone who played Dark Souls 1 when it came out, like seeing kind of spoilers, but not really, but seeing Anor Londo
It's
again
an old game. Yeah.
in 3
And
took my breath
that's exactly
away.
like I that was breathtaking and all. But like I still feel like a lot of stuff in Dark Souls 3 is from Dark Souls 1, whereas like in Dark Souls 2, like you had to go out of your way to find Ornstein. Ornstein's in that game.
Oh yeah.
And like it's like a deal and a secret you find, and that's kind of neat. But other than that, like they came up with their own like this whole other kingdom with a completely different and rich history. Dark Souls 2 is not. It's not. It's the worst Souls game. But
yeah, for sure.
It's not a terrible game, but it's the worst Souls game.
It's still a really good game, I would argue. It's just, when you're comparing
really
it to
good.
1 and 3,
There's some really terrible enemy placement in it. Other than that, I think it's pretty good.
I also saw you were playing Bloodborne.
Yeah, I just picked up Bloodborne recently. I'm really not ready to talk about it yet, because I'm not very far in. Hopefully we record consistently and I can collect my thoughts. I've been told it's as good as the original Dark Souls. I'm super not ready to agree with that yet, although the bosses and combat are both.
How far are you?
It's hard to say. I just beat the Blood-Starved Beast, but that's not even a part of the main game, I guess, and that's been my issue so far. I keep finding these new areas, thinking I'm making progress, and then finding out that they were optional.
Yeah.
So I really don't know where I'm at in the game right now. I'm not very far in. But I really like it so far. I don't think I'm going to agree that it's as good as Dark Souls 1, but I think it might be my second favorite.
Yeah. It's definitely, I think, a coin flip for me between Dark Souls 1 and Bloodborne as to what the best FromSoft game is. But keeping on the topic of FromSoft, I keep forgetting we haven't recorded for a year, so there's so much to say.
Yeah, there's a lot.
The winner of the Game Awards 2019 was Sekiro Shadows Die.
I'm going to beg that you be careful here, because I intend to play this game, and I don't want it spoiled for
I won't spoil anything. What I will say, though, is, one, I'm so glad From Software finally gets recognized on a big stage like that.
Oh, yeah.
And,
they deserve it.
And I think Sekiro, might be a series going forward, especially because the sales were really, really good. And, this one had Activision behind it publishing, which I think makes it more of a shoo-in for more sequels. And I do think from a story perspective, there's more to tell there, but I won't get into that due to spoilers. But the gameplay in that game is the best gameplay in a From Software game, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just the one weapon type, right? So they're able to
you just
really,
have your sword. Yeah.
Yeah, you can really get into the nitty gritty with it.
It is absolutely sublime. The combat in that game is beautiful.
Yeah,
they
I've seen
nailed sword combat to a degree I have not seen anyone else nail. It was immaculate. I'm
really excited to play it.
I really hope for a sequel sometime soon. But saying that, I forgot to mention another huge game coming out this year, Nioh 2.
I forgot about that.
Which is a really big deal, especially if you enjoy Sekiro. It's another sort of samurai melee combat game, and I will absolutely be jumping into that as well when it comes out. But yeah, Sekiro was a great experience, and I'm excited to hear your thoughts on it, Connor. Because it has certain moments in it that are, I guess, what I would call FromSoft moments. You know what I mean? Moments like
seeing Ornstein and Smog the first time.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Like that, or seeing Anne Orlando for the first time.
Yeah, that's a better example.
They have FromSoft moments in this game.
In Nioh or Sekiro?
In Sekiro, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm very excited to play Sekiro. I don't see myself playing Nioh.
But that being said, a lot of the things you love about From Software games are different in Sekiro. It doesn't have the absurdly rich lore of the Dark Souls.
Yeah.
It still has a good story, a decent story, and good background, but it's not to the level of
It's not Bloodborne and it's not Dark Souls.
Yeah, it's not Bloodborne or Dark Souls.
And thank God Elden Ring is going to be. Ooh,
yeah,
can't wait.
Elden Ring is going to be. Oh God, I imagine it just being Dark Souls, but on an immense scale.
Yeah.
Just give it to me, please. I need that game.
I've also been playing a racing game called Redout, and oh boy.
I think I've heard of this. Oh no, we played this.
Yeah, we played it at Extra Life.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about it?
Well, you ever play either Wipeout or F-Zero when you were younger?
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's the spiritual kind of successor to those games, and it's in its very DNA of just being real fast-paced, real almost technical on the level you have to drive because you're in a jet car.
It was definitely difficult to play with the amount of alcohol I had consumed at Extra Life. It was a problem.
Yeah, I always had a blast. I had a blast playing it, and the music is like this very bassy, almost like trance like electronic just blasting in your ear as you're going like the speed of sound down a speedway.
You're describing Thumper to me right now. That's the first.
Yeah,
thing.
no, it's a lot like Thumper. I just have this one issue with it, like, and I have this issue with like Wipeout too. Like, there's these really technically good racers that are like super fun to play and all, and then they just they don't put anything into their aesthetic. I feel like and this is stupid of me. Like, I'm usually a gameplay first kind of guy, but when I play a racing game, like, I want these like stunning visuals, and I feel like it doesn't deliver on that.
Yeah, it more relies on like the blur of speed to get you through the game.
And that's true for like Wipeout and to a lesser extent Thumper, although Thumper is so outside of that world, like it's not trying to do that.
Thumper's a rhythm game, not a racing game.
Yeah.
But Redout, it's very colorful. Like, I'll give it that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Very, very bright.
It's not boring to look at.
On.
So not just red then?
No, it's not just red. It is. Oh man, I just had a blast playing it. It gets really hard later on, just because if you haven't gotten the basic mechanics of drifting and everything down, you're gonna have a bad time later on. Especially once you get to the fastest vehicles in the game.
What platforms is it out on?
I think it's on all consoles except Switch and PC. I'd have to check. I played it on PC.
I feel like it'd be a perfect game on Switch. Like, I feel like racing games.
It is coming out on Switch eventually, I think. It might be out on Switch.
Racing games are perfect on Switch because you could instantly just, bring your Switch to a friend's house, split off the Joy-Cons, and then boom, you're playing
it is on
right
Switch. It is a game from 2016, but it is on Switch now. Came out in 2019. I had a really good time with that.
I just have some honorable mentions I'd like to say. I don't have a ton to say about them. They're just good games I played in the past year that I'd like to give a shout out to.
Sure. I have one more as well. But,
okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
You should go first then. I'll do mine last.
Are you sure?
Okay.
Yeah. So I want to give a shout out to. It's hard for me to say this, right? Because Sekiro was an incredible game. From a gameplay perspective, it has some of the best gameplay I've ever seen in a video game, period.
Yeah.
But this other game also came out in 2019. It was probably my favorite game of 2019 for completely different reasons. Completely unorthodox gameplay. Totally weird story. I'm talking about Death Stranding.
Oh, yeah, of course you are.
I loved this video game. And it was by far one of the strangest experiences I've ever had while playing a video game. The story is borderline nonsensical. The characters are just weird. They say weird things. They eat bugs for whatever reason. I'm not really sure why.
Mario and Princess Peach.
Yeah. But even in its awfulness, it's got this weird sort of charm to it, which really made me really dig it. But, okay, so aside from the story and the characters and all that, the thing that I really liked about Death Stranding was its unorthodox gameplay. It was so weirdly... I keep saying weird, but it really is weird.
That's the word for it, yeah.
Yeah. It is therapeutic playing that game. The entire gameplay loop is focused around making deliveries. You could be like hiking up a mountain after a particularly difficult stretch of land, and then, a low roar song starts just playing in the background as you're walking, and it just creates this feeling of serenity, which is, I don't know, I really enjoyed that. And I think it has that Kojima polish on it, like the same sort of polish that was on Metal Gear Solid 5 from a gameplay perspective. The game feels really good to play, even though it's intentionally designed to make you frustrated by like tripping over things if you're not careful. But that's the thing, though. If you play the game as it demands to be played, like as it wants you to play it, it's actually really, really fun to play, as opposed to like how I've seen like a lot of complaints about this game, saying the gameplay isn't good because of like the tripping and like. So if you like trip while you're making a delivery, your cargo gets ruined and you essentially just wasted all that time for nothing. But in most games, traversal is like you get from point A to point B because you want to do the thing at point B. But in this game, the point of the game is getting from point A to point B. Like, just traversing in it itself is the game, which is such a strange like previously unseen sort of concept, and it really is just sort of it really did vibe with me. I really enjoyed playing it, and I know it's a very polarizing game, right? Like it seems like half the people either like it's either you love it or you hate it, and I definitely firmly fall into the love it camp, and I'm very excited to see what Kojima does next, because like in an interview he was just like, yeah, I feel like I wasn't weird enough for Death Stranding. There were like ideas that I wanted to put in but just didn't because I was holding myself back, and I was just like, you're a madman, and I want to see what else you have to offer. But yeah, after that spicy opinion, you go ahead, Connor.
Did you have anything else you want to talk about, Mike?
I have one honorable mention, and there's not a lot to talk about it, but Oxygen Not Included launched this year as well.
Oh yeah, I remember you talking about that. Yeah.
Did I talk about it?
No, I don't remember. The podcast. No,
I think I talked.
You and I have talked about it. Yeah.
It's really good, but it's also really hard, and it's one of those simulation games. Along with that and Satisfactory for games that I picked up this year, but really they fall in the same vein of just games to chill out to, or have an anxiety attack to, with Oxygen Not Included. And Satisfactory is more chill. It's like Factorio but 3D, and it's still getting active updates. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I'm just gonna rapid fire down. I'm just looking at played, trying to see games I've played since the last time we recorded, which appallingly is only like 4 rows of games. It's really not much. But just the big ones. Devil May Cry series, I've talked about it a few times today. 1 and 3 are must plays. Haven't played 5 yet, but 1 is a little weird. You can skip it if you want. I won't call it a must play, but 3 is a must play. Just if you like action beat 'em up, or like action character fighter type games like Bayonetta. Yeah. If you like Bayonetta, you have to play Devil May Cry 3. It's mandatory. A game called Feather. It's by a developer called Samurai Punk. It's really weird. Not something everybody'd be into, because there are no goals in it. You just play as a bird, and it's this handcrafted island somebody made, and you're flying around this island. And I think it's multiplayer. I think the other birds are other players, but I'm really not certain because it really doesn't matter, because there's nothing going on. It's just a super zen game. Really beautiful island they made. Wonderful music. Couple different birds you can play as. Just super zen. I play it if I've had a long day or something. It's like $10 on Steam. That's, I don't know. You can get an awfully good game for $10. So I'm not going to say it's for everybody, but I like it. It's experimental. It's weird. My kind of thing. Slime Rancher. If you were going to play Slime Rancher, you probably already played it. It was free on Epic Games Store. I bought it on Steam. It's really good. You just kind of ranch slimes. Like, there's not a ton to say about it.
There is a story.
Yeah, there's a story.
Finished it.
I beat it, and I kind of lost interest in it after I beat it. I didn't 100% it. But it's fun. You just kind of figure out how to make the most money by farming these slimes. And the mechanics aren't super deep, but they are fun. Had a good time with it. Let's see. Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. Pretty much if you like classic Metro or a classic Castlevania, this is pretty much all there is. So if you like that, you should try it.
Did you try Ritual of the Night?
I haven't played it yet. I'm not that into the Metroidvanias though. I have Ritual of the Night. I just haven't played it yet. But yeah, if you like Castlevania 1 and 3, this is worth playing. I honestly wasn't super impressed with it. It's not like best game I've ever played. The visuals are really nice. It matches the NES aesthetic pretty good, but it's no Shovel Knight, Game called Astroneer. I don't know if I've ever talked about it on the show. It was in early access for a while, but it's out now on all major platforms except Switch. And it's just, if you like survival games, it's pretty fun. It's kind of like Minecraft, but if Minecraft is Legos, this game is clay. Like, the world is kind of like it's made of clay and you can move it around and stuff, but it's like a space exploration sort of thing. There are no enemies in it. It's mainly Astroneer.
Astroneer? There are enemies. They're just
they're
hazards.
Plants. Yeah, they're hazards, not enemies really. It's a fun game though. It's fun enough. It's on Game Pass. It's kind of fun to chill out and play. It's a beautiful game. The aesthetic is just amazing in it. And that's it for honorable mentions for me. I do want to give a shout out to a game called Many-Law. It was actually a game I've already talked about on the show before. It's like a RoboCop Judge Dredd kind of game, but a good friend of mine, Jack Daniels, is one of the head developers on it at Lasso Games, and it officially came out January 1st. So it is a finished game now, and you should all check it out on Steam. Super
Nice.
fun, but a little hard to get into. It's very mechanically deep. And again, that is Mini Law by Lasso Games.
Cool. Yeah, definitely check it out.
It's just some rapid fire stuff there for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's been a year since we last recorded, so there's definitely no way we can hit on everything. But I think I've talked about most of the things that made an impact on me last year.
Yeah, this 2-hour episode got it.
Yeah, but yeah, no, going forward, I definitely have said this before, but going forward, I definitely want to try and be more regular. Weekly
every week or
type
two.
episodes. Definitely can't do 2-hour episodes every week, but this one's
No.
sort of special,
We won't want to, I don't think.
coming back after a
Oh
year.
man, we did hit 2 hours.
Yep.
Yeah, this is the special. Sorry, we didn't record in the last week. 2 hours, a 2 hour long, or not last week, last year.
Last
Here's
year.
a 2 hour long episode to make up for about a year of content that we
Yeah.
missed.
If there was ever a time to come back, this is it. We are in the calm of the storm right now.
Yeah.
And even with that being said, there's still so much to talk about. But very soon here, we're just going to have bombshell after bombshell dropped regarding next gen, and there will be so much to talk about in the weeks and months to come.
Yeah, E3 is going to be nuts. We thought E3 last year was going to be nuts, and
I don't think E3 is going to be nuts. I don't think E3 is even going to happen this year.
E3 is going to happen. Sony's not going to be there.
The time around E3 might be nuts, but I don't think E3 itself is going to be anything.
I'm convinced that Sony will just, while E3 is happening, just reveal the PlayStation 5 in
Just
their
do full
own
Nintendo.
private event. Yeah.
Do a Sony
Yeah.
Direct. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Because-
last year has been really bad for Bethesda, really bad for Blizzard, but great for other companies.
I mean, Microsoft's going to have a very strong showing at E3. They have to.
Yeah. And I don't want to get into it, but Bethesda and Blizzard have earned everything coming their way.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next week.
All right, I think that's going to do it for us this week. Thank you guys for listening, and we will catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.